Right, thank you for coming. It could have been an empty room, couldn't it, on a Friday afternoon, so well done and thank you. It would have been a bit embarrassing to just be talking, you know, maybe me and you, or me and you. So thank you for that. Thank you, just briefly, thank you to the organisers and the speakers, some of whom are in the room, so thank you because it's been brilliant. So my name is Laurence and I work for Indigo Blue and I work as a leadership coach. Yeah, so I help people who help Agile teams. Yeah? And just a quick, just briefly, Mastech own Indigo Blue, and Mastech are a big 2,000 strong delivery company. Indigo Blue are a much smaller Agile consultancy, and both companies are hiring. So if you're interested in that, then come and talk to us. We've got a stand in the far room downstairs. Yeah. So that's a sort of a plug, but sort of an opportunity. Okay. So today is about roles, and specifically about a game that we've created to help people explore roles. And I want you to interrupt me and disagree or shout out thoughts or questions all the way through because it just makes it more interesting. Yeah? I want it to be a conversation, not a speech. Is that okay? And I'm also going to ask for 5 people to fill these chairs. Yeah? But it's not difficult. It'll just I want to have a conversation, not a monologue. Yeah. So we came at this from we started actually creating a thing called Invent a Game, and so we landed on this game. But we actually also have been doing this thing just to try and get people thinking outside of the box a bit about what challenges have you got. And maybe could you invent a game to help your teams think about those challenges? It's a fun way of retrospecting in a way. So that's kind of where this came from. But today, and we did that last week at Agile Cymru. I know some of you were there. We actually did that session there. But this game is an example of a game that's for a specific challenge around, or challenges around roles. I call it gluing the team together. Yeah, so this is when we're trying to glue teams together and also trying to build commitment to each other in a team. But can people share thoughts about what challenges or things you see in the context of roles? What do people think? You know, why have you come? Why are you thinking about roles? Any thoughts?
I struggle with individuals in a team taking responsibility for end-to-end delivery of stories, so rather than a shared.
Okay, so I'll just repeat for everybody. So getting people to feel sort of accountable for the whole story, not their slice of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like a single team view. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Yeah.
We also have this grey area between I know that I'm doing that, and he knows that he's doing that.
Yeah.
And there is some grey area between us that we either do both, and it's double work.
Right. Great. So there's
we don't do.
Like an overlap issue. So how much, it's great to overlap, but how is that going to work for you? And then potentially is there a gap in the middle as well?
Yeah.
So that I think that's quite a big problem area for a lot of people. I've seen that a lot. Okay. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, getting people who are used to formal project management working out what they need to do for Agile teams, especially with their
Okay.
side.
Yeah, so what do we do in terms of project management? Also governance as well, because we tend to sort of deliver stuff but forget about the governance. Yeah, there's a lot of gaps there. Okay, yeah?
Be really honest and say like massive personality clashes.
Yeah, okay, it's about people. So you said personalities, yeah, definitely. And my approach is to try and get people talking to each other about this, not telling them what their role is, because that's a different thing. So personalities, yeah, one more.
Getting people to think about being T-shaped rather
Okay.
than only sitting in one little role, which is
Right, so you're saying T-shaped and getting people to think outside their role, really, isn't it? Yeah, great. Okay, thank you for those. So I've got a scenario where I think is useful, which is when you're creating a new team, obviously. But what about when someone leaves the team or goes on maternity leave? Or what are you going to do? There's going to be some gaps. So we're going to move on, yeah, to let's do something. You're all going to get a pack of cards at the end, yeah? So now is your opportunity to work out how you might want to use it. And I hope you will use it differently. That'd be great. So any brave volunteers I could do with, okay, I've picked some roles because we're not going to do all the roles. I could do with a developer. We've got any willing developers who people can think of as a developer? Yeah, brilliant, come up. A tester, great. Anyone who is happy to pretend they're a business analyst? And it'll be easy, it's not a test. Great, come up, thank you. Some sort of customer, product lead, product owner. Yeah, great. And a scrum master. We must have some scrum masters. Do you want to be a scrum master? Brilliant, thank you. Thank you for being brave, because I haven't really told you what you need to do, have I? Right. And you'll be glad to know there are post-it notes and pens on the tables, but you probably don't need them. So what we start off doing, when you open up your cards, you can read the instructions, but we're not going to do that, is we start by thinking about who are we and what are our roles, because actually teams don't always know that. You know that you're a developer, but who's the product owner? Stuff like that, yeah. So can you take your cards from there? Can you work out who you are? Yeah, so that was quite easy for this team. But what about if I said, who's the delivery manager? There's a card here that says delivery manager. What's that? Who's the delivery manager? It's kind of the same as a scrum master, yeah? It depends where you work, yeah? So these differences come out, yeah? Right, and there are many other roles, but I've just put those to one side, yeah? But the challenge is, so this is a real scenario, this is a team of 5, but there's some roles that aren't here. So who's going to do that stuff? And that's part of the challenge, yeah? So the rest of the card pack that you're going to get represents all the stuff that we need to do. But it depends on the size of your team as to who's going to do it. But what I'm interested in is you all committing to each other as a team. I'm going to do that, and you say, I'm going to do that, and you might argue about it, like you were saying. You might have we don't know, so let's try it, yeah? So I've chosen some cards for us to try. So what I encourage is for people to, not for me, if I'm a coach, not for me to read them all out, but for you to read them out. So can you just take the first one and read it out, yeah?
So I determine the technical environments and control the technical configuration. I coordinate and advise on all technical activities.
Right. So that sounds quite techie, doesn't it? Who sounds like they want to... Do you want to do that?
Yep.
Brilliant. We've got somebody who wants to do it. Yeah? Let's bank it and move on. So can you read one out?
I respond to escalated issues. I own the business case. Should be me.
And when you say me, keep reminding us what your role is, yeah, just to help.
I'm a product lead.
Yeah.
So I would say I do own the business case. The escalated issues, if they are technical, I don't respond to them because I'm not technical. But if they are misunderstanding of the business case, then yes.
And if there were if there was a sponsor in the room, you'd have a conversation with them. But is that me? Is it you? But I think in this scenario, it's you, isn't it? Yeah. So product lead. So I'm not too worried about the right answer here. I'm more interested in the commitment and the conversation. Yeah. Next one.
I'm responsible and accountable from the beginning to end. I define the product strategy.
I would love to have that one.
Yeah. So that's also you. And I find that's quite a big one, is that who actually is accountable? Because we quite like being these pally teams where we all get stuck in, but who's actually, that phrase used yesterday, the one wringable neck and all that sort of stuff, yeah? Who is that? Yeah. Okay, should we keep going? Yeah, next one.
Quick question. So
Yeah.
can we do, like, for example, this particular thing, it also requires some technical aspects.
Mhm.
So she being a business person, and I being a technical person, can we both do the one single role?
So you can do what you want with this, yeah, but what I'm getting at here is that who's responsible for making sure it happens, yeah? Now, you're a developer.
Can I be a only single person? That's my question.
Yeah, I mean, as a developer, you're a developer, there'd probably usually be several of you. So I'd say sit together and you play as one. But yeah, this is not an exact science, but I want to make that conversation happen. So you would ask that question of the team and decide what it means for you. I don't know the best answer, but I want you to decide the best answer. That's part of gluing the team, I think, yeah?
I lead and develop the team and manage our stakeholders.
Oh yeah.
Stakeholders, I think. I communicate and promote our version.
I would say that stakeholder management is definitely on the product lead side, not the analyst side. But I can share my business case preparation with you if you want.
You can keep it, I don't mind.
Great. And so, sometimes you want a pair of scissors because you want to start cutting them up. But that's great. You know, what we do is just put stickers on them. Yeah. So you might say, oh, we're both going to do this thing. As long as you're all committing to each other, then I really don't mind. The only reason there are 2 statements on each card is just because there wouldn't be enough cards for all the statements. So that's most of them come in pairs.
I rationalise complex information and make it understandable for others. I write business cases that support our strategy and vision. So that's really me. Yay!
So the business analyst has something to do. The tester hasn't got anything to do yet. So you're looking happy. It was interesting that you said that's going to be me. Yeah. Because what I want to happen when you use this is that this is not a test of what do you know about role definitions. This is about you. Yeah. And each card starts with the word I, because I want it to be about you saying I'm going to do that, not business analysts should do that. I want you to say I'm going to do that. That's the difference. Yeah. Interrupt with questions, etc. Yeah?
I'm responsible for all our business user stories. I have expertise on requirements of our users, subject matter experts, and stakeholders. Another one.
I can share it with you.
Should it be a PA or should it be a product owner? Because the product owner knows what the requirements and the user stories product would like to have.
I would say from my perspective that if she is accountable for this part of work, then she can come to me and ask me, hey, I don't understand this part of direct communication with the customer. So if at least half of the work is done by the person, from my perspective, feel free, be responsible for that.
Yeah, I'll just repeat that for everyone. So you're saying there's a difference between being accountable and responsible. Yeah. My answer is I don't mind, because I work in lots of different teams and it's different everywhere. So I love the fact that you're challenging it. That's what the game's for. Yeah. So it's to raise those, oh, I'm not sure about that. And then you might say, well, in that team down the corridor, it's different to in our team. That's why we call it real roles, because this is the real world. Yeah. So I really like questions. Yeah. So thank you. We'll keep going. We won't do all the pack here.
I found a good one. I create and execute or automate test products, such as test scripts, cases, plans and logs, and work with teams and stakeholders to define test scenarios.
Yes! Right, I'm going to sort of throw in a curveball now, because otherwise it'll get very boring. Yeah. So just to recap on the scenarios, obviously use this for a new team, obviously. But we don't always have that luxury of starting at the beginning, you know what I mean. So also when people move or when people leave, because if people leave, it leaves a gap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask some of you to leave. No, don't take any offence, yeah, because we'll see what happens. Okay. So let's just think. I'm going to ask the business analyst to leave. So thank you for helping us, but you're going off on an amazing 6-month holiday. Well done. And who else? Should we ask the tester to go on holiday as well? Yep. Yeah? Because you've got one. So thank you for your help. Yeah, thank you. So it's kind of obvious what I'm going to say. Yeah? This is just to explore a different scenario. So what happens when people go on leave for a bit or go on a long holiday? We've got some gaps. So what are you going to do? What are you thinking?
Generally, we will share the responsibilities among the whole team.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, I'm working in a company where each and every person can do others' work. So
okay, lucky you.
That is one of the best things about my team now. So I can be a tester, a scrum master, a product owner, a developer, as well as a QA. So if there is going to be a person who is leaving from my team, we will make sure that it will not impact the productivity of the team or
Great.
the delivery.
It's bound to affect the productivity of the team because it's less of you though. So if you're picking up somebody else's work, you're trying to do the work of full-time, 2 other full-time people plus yourself, that is going to impact productivity.
Yeah, productivity will definitely change. It may go up. We don't know. It may go up. Yeah, because the guy who left might be an idiot and he might be a genius. But I agree it will change. But so this is to it's just to have that conversation. And again, this is about the real world. You know, wouldn't it be lovely if we now have 2 shiny new people sat here? But that often doesn't happen, does it? We usually have to get by for at least a few weeks. So I'm just saying, use this to talk about it. That's all I'm saying. I agree stuff will change and it will be difficult. But I'm just saying, why not use this to have a conversation? But yeah, productivity will definitely change. So what you're telling me is that you're going to take on the tester bits for now, maybe until the tester arrives. And then, so we've got 2 cards here for the business analyst. I'll just recap on them. I am responsible for all our business user stories. And the other one was, I rationalise complex information and make it understandable.
Yeah, it seems more like a product lead part.
Well, both of them?
Developer, yeah.
So let's pick this one then. So I am responsible for all our business user stories, and I have expertise on the requirements of our users, subject matter experts and stakeholders. Is that you?
Yeah.
So you're happy to take that on? Because I'm thinking someone else might take the other one on, yeah?
Yeah, but that's also...
I'll be also helping her out in this case.
But
Yeah.
listen to this one, yeah? So I rationalise complex information and make it understandable for others.
Yep.
So maybe a developer can help with that.
Yeah, I can do
I
that.
write business cases. Can anyone else help with the business case? It needs to be in Russian, yeah? I'm making that. So my point is, you can share these around, yeah? If we fast forward to what typically happens near the end is you'll get one person with loads of cards, and they're usually some sort of project manager, and then you get someone else sat there with no cards, and the project manager will be going, this isn't fair, and then a new conversation starts. So expect that, yeah, and I think that's fine. That's kind of reflects the real world. If you've been a project manager, you know what I mean, because I have. Yeah, there's a question.
What about the conflict in terms of the roles, the role and the responsibility of that role?
Yeah, well, it's a good point. So you said, what about the conflict aspect? Because this is a very simple, silly example, but it was just to demonstrate it. We're not really seeing that conflict aspect. But if there are more people in the room, generally there'll be 10 of us sat in a circle.
So the tester went on holiday, so the developers picked up testing.
Yeah.
The developer is going to code and test its own code. So the developer
Yeah.
does their code, and then what's going to production is the thing.
Yeah, so you're concerned we've got somebody testing their own work. I totally agree, but I'm saying this is the real world. So if we're not happy with that, then probably the project manager or somebody, it would probably be your role that we're calling you a product lead, and you said, I am responsible. I would expect you to say, actually, I'm not happy about this because I'm worried about quality. That's a real conversation. So this isn't coming up with the answer. This is just creating the conversation, yeah? But at the moment, the scenario is we haven't got anybody. We could stop, couldn't we? That's another option. We might decide to stop. But this will create that conversation, I think. But it's not giving you the answer. I call it a talking tool. Yeah, that's all it is. So just let me check if there was any other scenarios I wanted to cover. So we've talked about moving. Yeah, the other bit, which often happens with product leaders, is that the team struggles to get usually the time of the product owner, but certainly the team go, oh, the product owner's not really doing what we need. And I actually coach product owners, and they often are too busy doing other things, and they often haven't really had the support that they need to learn the role. So I think there's another scenario, which is people aren't doing what we expect of them, and you can use this to explore that. If you feel, I'd suggest that if you've got a concern about one role, why not talk about everybody's roles? Because it's not very nice going to the product owner and saying, I'm really worried about your ability to do your role. Let's just talk about everybody's roles, knowing that it might help them. Yeah, it's a nicer way of having that conversation. Often for me, that's my customer. If I'm the supplier, the customer is the product owner. I definitely don't want to say, I don't think you're doing your job properly. That's not a good conversation. Yeah. Sounds like some of you have had that conversation. Yeah, of course, yeah.
I also think that one of the possible uses of this game is that as a product owner, I take the full pack of scenarios and they choose everything I think I should do, and then others can fight me to take some responsibilities from me. And that's what is currently happening at our team, because product owners are saying we don't have enough say at strategic level because we don't have time to do that. And then Scrum Master and the team, they're saying, oh, actually we want you to act more on the strategic level, because all the technical things we can do ourselves. And then we start exactly these talks, why I'm actually at this workshop, because I'm extremely interested in what kind of trigger I can give to my team in order to redistribute the current responsibilities.
Sorry, I can see an overlay with the Management 3.0 delegation poker cards as well. So you can say, this is what I think is in my remit, but I'm prepared to delegate it, and I'm prepared to kind of guide or tell.
Yeah, so you're saying it's got links into Management 3.0. I would encourage you to use the cards in whatever way you think, and I'd encourage you to change them as well. Load the deck. I've chosen cards that I think are relevant today. When you give it to a team, you can put it in the right order for them, or take some cards out, or just use sticky notes and add comments in that you want people to talk about. This is not meant to be perfect. It's based on one particular methodology. It actually comes from GDS, for those of you who know about that from government. But it's not saying this is the answer. It's encouraging you to just use it to start exploring stuff. Yeah. So don't be scared to change it. Take out cards that are not relevant. It's your decision. Right. Sorry. One more.
When say certain skills are not there, for example, test manager is not there, and somebody wants to pick up the role, a test manager has a way of thinking of how to test. So yes, the developer says I do it, or I do all the roles, but then every role has their strength. So it would be more appropriate where any person who has a similar strength would take it, rather than depending on the title of the.
So the question was like, test manager isn't a role in this scenario. I've actually got all the other roles over here, and you're right, it happens not to be a role in GDS. But my suggestion is, if you feel you want a test manager, just write test manager on a post-it note and throw it into the conversation. I want you to talk about the person, not the role. So we might say, actually, the tester is also the test manager on this team, but on that team it may not be. It's just different on each team, I think. Does that make sense? This is not a test about roles.
No, sorry, I didn't explain very well. The skills of that role which is missing right now, if someone else wants to pick it up, that skill needs to be there. It's not just good enough to say that, So perhaps what I should have said then is there's at the end as well, there'll be some cards that nobody wants or can do. So that's a good point, yeah? So my suggestion is you'll end up with some cards, usually 3 or 4, and you'll go, oh, no, nobody wants to do these, or nobody can do these, and that's another conversation. So somebody needs to pick that up and say, oh, let's throw that into our retrospective, or let's go and talk to the training department, or whatever. Because there's another, I'll come to it now, yeah. There's another scenario which is, I would love to try that thing, and I like that one, is I'd like to try some testing. That's a nice one, yeah. One more question, yeah.
My question relates to that point, but basically is the other side of somebody actually feeling more capable than they are. There's the team or the manager or whatever goes,
Yeah, so you're talking about people have got different levels of ability depending on what we're doing.
Some people think that they're more capable than they are, and maybe they've done it in the past.
And some people might think they're not as good as they are. So I would encourage that conversation. I think it's a nice scenario which I didn't list earlier, which is somebody wants to try something new. Maybe that person who thinks they're fantastic, maybe we can ask them to help someone else learn. That would be nice. Yeah, so you can use it to explore that, I think. But it's not telling you the answer. Okay. No. I enjoyed your talk earlier. Was it today or yesterday? I can't even remember when it was. Yeah.
So on that, one more point on that. This the journey you're talking about. If somebody is interested in a specific skill, one is that they already have the skill set to polish on that. Another is if they are interested, they might be thinking of switching their career in a different direction.
So let me just recap. So we're talking about people who want to develop their career. Yes. Yeah. So I'm going to go quite fast. We've only got a few minutes here. So I think on that, definitely try and use it for this, because that's really important, isn't it? But throw that into the conversation and say, it might say here, I'm a tester, but I want to be a developer. Let's talk about it. Yeah, I think that's really nice. Is that okay?
Yeah, but then the leadership or the management team and the HR function need to support that transition.
But I would then say, okay, if there's another task which is engage HR, it feels like you might need to do that. It's still in the context. I would use the game to drive that out. I think it's a nice example. So thank you guys for being so helpful. Quick clap for the guys.
He says the developer's doing everything, which doesn't happen very often, that, does it? I used to be a developer, so I can say that. Right, so I'm going to start bringing us to a close. Yep.
So what do you say to the Scrum purists that sort of basically say there are only 4 roles?
I say that's fine. You only have 4 cards. But what this is giving you is you've got 4. You'd have 4 roles, but you've still got to get all the stuff done. So you'll go through the stuff and work out how we're going to do it, or agree that we're not going to do it. So it's absolutely fine. You could use it if you've got 20 roles or if you've got 2 roles. It doesn't matter, because you've still got to do the stuff, or most of the stuff. So, governance stuff and things like that. You say, oh God, we have to do that, and we haven't got anyone to do it. But other stuff, you'll say, actually, in this team, we don't need to do that stuff. So it's up to you. You'll cherry pick. Yeah.
Feels like you're segregating people out to do roles rather than looking at the purest form, saying it's the responsibility of the team to get that done.
Yeah. So let me recap the question further. So you're saying it's that I'm moving away from this purist view of a correct view of roles. I think the answer is I'm not telling you which way to go. I'm just saying you could use this to be really rigid, or you could use it to not be rigid. And as a coach, I let people make decisions. That's what I'm trying to do. But you could go either way. You could use it to be really rigid if you wanted to. I'm not saying that. It's different in each organisation, actually, I think. So a few other things to mention. First thing is we're going to give you, my colleague Claire, give us a quick wave if you can, is going to give you cards on the way out. I'm going to point you at, we run some meetups, and the information's here. They're all free if you want to get involved. And if you want more cards, we've only got enough here to give you 1. If you want more, give Claire your details and we can send them out. They're free, we're happy to share them. Please give us feedback. You'll find new ways of using it. That would be great. Claire, is there anything else I've forgotten to say at the end?
Yeah, the team game.
Yes.
So
So let me recap, because they can't hear you, Claire. So I mentioned at the beginning, this came out of a session called Invent a Team Game that we did at Agile Cymru last week and a few other times. If that's of interest for your people, because we always learn something from doing that, we can create an event with you to do that with your people or your customers or whatever, or a meetup, etc. Just talk to us, because we like creating things like that, okay? Happy, Claire? Anything else? Brilliant. Thank you, everyone, for your attention, and grab a card from a card deck on the way out. Thank you.